Peace, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to the podcast. And tonight podcast is geopolitical thriller. You can't stop watching once you start. And what we talking about is Michael Jackson. The previous show was in the side chat. We was talking about Kanye West, someone who was influenced by Michael Jackson, someone who grew up during the same time period as me and my guest, Mr. Royale. Believe me, Michael was the man. I remember the 80s, Reagan, Nancy, all this stuff. People talk about politics. Now they had an actor in office back then. Reagan was an actor, if y'all didn't know. But we're not going to get into the 80s and all that stuff. We're going to get into Michael Jackson. So I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Royale. So you got to turn your mic on. I'll turn it on. Let's get busy.
Okay, you hear me or no?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, peace. I mean, it's doesn't just have to cover Mike, although Mike is just a topic within itself. So we definitely will have to make sure that conversation happens. But there's a lot happening, so we could, keep it geopolitical still and keep the thriller alive at the same time. By the conversations about everybody's expecting allegations from the movie and all of the things that was in the movie, etc.
Take us to Manila, the thriller in Manila.
I mean, so obviously, since we last spoke, I did see the movie, and I think they kept it as clean as possible because there was children at the theater, which was a smart move. And, a lot of adults was expecting it to be more allegations. And we didn't grow up with those allegations. Like we grew up, loving Mike as a recording artist, a performer, an entertainer. And those allegations came into play when he got older. I mean, when we were younger, it just was sleeping in a ventilator or some shit, just all type of regular weird stuff that, where he got the Wacko Jacko and created the song Leave Me Alone for other stuff he was doing. But all the allegations and all that stuff wound up happening later on. So strategically, I would say whoever's controlling the estate is doing an amazing job at making sure they have they controlling the narrative as far as at least when it comes to the commercial value of his intellectual property. And what I did notice that is a part of the conversation that we can shift off into at some point was they used a clone of his voice. Like they used AI for his voice. And even my son, he was like, really? Like he couldn't see it because you get so caught up in the movie itself. And the fact that they used Mike's nephew was dope and a super blessing because we in the age of AI could have did the same job, for way less money. And I think this is probably after this movie and the next one is probably going to be the last time we actually get to see a live action of Michael Jackson, possibly because there's so many different versions that we can venture off into. And that was like my first take was like, yo, he's like Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? Like you expect Spider-Man to be and do something other than you want him to be when it's like, no matter what, that is the IP that you control, it starts off a certain way. There's a certain theme to this character in order for this character to become the character that you know and love. So whether that's the Uncle Ben character dying or the Mary Jane or the Venom or whatever the case is, it's always going to be the same scenario because that's just how the intellectual property works successfully. And Mike is no different. If Mike didn't have a Tough Pops, his brothers, the Diana Rosses, the Quincy Jones, these characters come into play and made Mike who he is and who we know today. God rest his soul. So the allegations just became a different part of the conversation when you have when you have him controlling half of Sony. That's when things get a little more controversial, when when he is you know becoming a shrewd businessman, or flexing his business acumen as one of the most intelligent entertainers that we've ever come across, because to own half of Sony, and just some of the most phenomenal writers, artists, and performers, to own their publishing, knowing the value of publishing, and they try to say he was broke and all of these other things. That's why it's like, how's he broke? And like, it doesn't make any sense when the Beatles catalog alone, not even the entire catalog, just the Beatles alone, was multiple billions of dollars. Like, John Lennon by himself got $1 billion, that for his publishing. Excuse me. And what's the other one on? Paul McCartney got $1 billion for his publishing. And that's not a collective as the Beatles. That's individual Beatles. So that's just the Beatles. That's not Eminem. That's not Mariah Carey. That's not that's not some of James Brown. That's not Little Richard. That's not the entire catalog from ATV. That's just a fraction of it. And the funny thing, and how it winds up tying back to me at this point, is the fact that Little Richard was caught up in that whole ATV buyout. And Little Richard didn't get his publishing back until Michael Jackson bought it and gave it to him. So, and the thing is, Little Richard would say, yo, they copied my style, which was true. Elvis copied his style. Like, when Elvis copied your music, that was it. Basically everybody just wanted to hear Elvis' version of your record. So you was basically washed after that. And you see how it turned out for Little Richard, where, even though he was young at the time, it still was no comparison to the phenomenon of Elvis Presley. And even Mike had that method of doing other people's songs and it becoming the new version that people, referred back to. But what winds up happening is in, I believe, 96, Michael Jackson gave Little Richard his publishing back after this legal battle that Richard was having with them copying and taking his work. And here it is, 2026, and I'm having the same issue at the same age that Little Richard was, with them taking my song and having to, go through legal battles. But there's no Michael Jackson at this point, where, maybe if there is, I don't have no clue who that could be at this point that can come in and make, my issue just smooth out, or whatever the case is. But I'm, just doing my part to handle my business. But but it's just, what?
You're hip hop. In hip hop, you got Kendrick Lamar and Drake, Michael Jackson, Prince.
Right. So, and the thing is, see, I don't consider them, in that space of the Michael Jackson and Prince. And that's just me as an artist. I consider them just a different kind of derivative of what music was. Like Rick James, Michael Jackson, Prince, Curtis Mayfield, Isaac Hayes, and the list goes on. But what we do as in hip hop is something where it's more based on the poet, melody, and hopefully you can get an original sound out of what we're doing today. Whereas in those days, they was coming up with original, mostly original tunes, all instruments, et cetera, where, we don't have a band behind us. We don't got to look for a drummer, a keyboardist, et cetera. We can just actually sample something they did and branch off of it. So I'm just saying, like, the originality and the thought process that these guys had to go through is unfair for the gods to even, hear a name like, some of these names that come up today and be compared to them, which is just doesn't make any, like, I get it, but I don't, you know what I mean? Because like these guys are stealing from me. So if that's that, then I don't even want to, I don't even, that's why I don't bring those guys up in a conversation as far as, you know, um, those comparisons, because when you see what's going on and when you know what's going on, and, and you see like, okay, so, you know, if these guys are supposed to be the guys, and if I had to count on them, basically I would be done. So I don't look at them as, as a Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder era, because when Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder and Lionel Richie and the rest of them put together We Are the World and all of these other, you know, super ultimate groups where all of these mega celebrities, mega stars, whether they could sing, couldn't sing, etc., came together for a cause to help the people, right? And where today you can barely get that happening with two or three people, so it just was a different time where people actually cared about the people, where now there's no care about the people. There's no that everything is just very corporate. Everything is very cold. There is no connection to the people that they're talking to. They're talking um at them. They're not talking to them, and that's the whole difference, where I'm saying like, no, Stevie Wonder's records, resonated because he was talking to us. And we related to those records. Michael Jackson, whether he wrote the song or the song was written for him, those songs was written for us, and that's why it's like, a little PTSD reaction where it's like, no, don't say that, and it's in hip hop, you know what I mean? Like we care for the culture, and we cared for a long time. In our last conversation, I was like, yo, hip hop and music in general failed the culture, that we failed, our report card, we definitely got an F, because the whole culture didn't come together and unify all the gangsters, all the conscious people, all the super lyricists, all the whatever was going on. It was no unity when it came down to, the pandemic. Everybody just folded up, and, it was self-preservation. People was afraid to even talk to their own family. So when it comes to, my take on what these businesses and these corporations are doing, that is how I gauge reality of today. All of those artists that you bring up, they cause more problems because they was luring people into these arenas and theaters where children had to be, vaccinated to take this vaccine. Fast forward today, and from now to May 11th, Fauci is up for his Department of Justice can either lock him up for committing what you call that, perjury in Congress, right? So all of this is understanding like, yo, only a couple of years ago, all of these guys that were supposed to be so amazing, all of these corporations that's supposed to be so amazing, for us, and we need to support them. And now fast forward, we realize that was just a trap. And the guys that were leading the charge on that trap are now just supposed to walk away unpunished, because guess what? The Department of Justice isn't reliable like that. So now you got to understand, maybe that's why Trump removed his protection, removed his security service, his secret service protection, because it's like, yo, these guys in here are insane. If y'all got a problem with him, I'm gonna at least remove my people out of the equation, so it doesn't become y'all got a problem with us too. Because Fauci was with the Astors, the Vanderbilt, all of these. There's a picture of Fauci, however you pronounce his name. There's a picture of him with all of the, with these wealthy family, it's just all of them, and he's standing there with Bill Gates, and they all, and they all just standing there in this picture. And people may understand, to see that picture is maybe how you understand if nothing happens on May 11th, because they got to May 11th to prosecute him for perjury under oath, right? So now the fact that he can even be prosecuted for lying to Congress, and then you have the Department of Justice in a recent video saying it was an era of betrayal, that is all you need to know, right? So when these other characters come into play, they're not Mike, where Mike was like, nah, I'm cool on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to do We Are the World and try to prevent people from getting AIDS. That Fauci was the guy leading the charge on that. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same characters, it's the same corporations, is, whether people could, connect the dots at this point, is also, I don't want to say neither here nor there, but it's really important for people to know, if what they're doing is effective, whether we're going to stay on the treadmill and keep running the same, letting them run the same play or falling for the same trap, or, we're going to, just, speak about what's, what the reality is, so that's why I look at, whether it's any film or anything going on, I look at it with a different perspective because I'm an advertiser, right? So as an advertiser and an artist and a musician, etc., my perspective of things is like, what are you selling? What's going on? So a lot of these movies, a lot of these platforms are built to sell something, and that selling part is the part where people get lost in the psychological warfare of these things because it's a psychological warfare. So whether you're an intellectual property and you don't understand the value of what you do, what you create, they don't care, because they know, because that's why every second, every piece of data, everything you do counts, and these data centers are being built because they know everything you do counts. So these data centers are collecting information on what you do and how you say it and when you say it, why you say it, when you don't do it. All of that's what that's about. And these data centers are not separate from the earth. Like, oh, it's in that state or that state, when those states are seen as corporations on somebody's portfolio. And the reality is those states are land masses on earth. So people will care no matter where we at about the water and the air. What we care about, what happens, and the damage that these corporations are just doing. So how are we moving forward, with some of these projects and not prosecuting mass murder? Like, these guys are responsible for a lot of people not being here right now. You get what I'm saying? Like, so, like, when you hear of a young dude committing a heinous act and he's punished to the highest degree, 100 life sentences, 1,000 years, and then these guys actually, smash millions of people, billions of people, out of reality, with their experiment, and then they walking around like things are sweet. Like, even Trump had brought the president of Pfizer to the White House, and there's a room full of black people there, and he's like, yo, here's the president of Pfizer. And all the black people were like looking at each other like, what that mean? And he's like, and what that meant was, if you got a problem with him, speak on it. You get what I'm saying? Like, here's your opportunity, because after this, you ain't going to be able to, because if you think about a lot of the college people, a lot of the college people, they get live and they turn up and they get crazy. You know what I'm saying? So when you bring these college people in a scenario where they have an opportunity to get live, turn up and wild out and speak their mind, because not only do they wild out, they're intellectual. So you expecting there to be a legitimate concern and conversation about whatever they do if they have to crash out. and that was an opportunity to crash out. That probably would have been excused or pardoned, and nothing happened. So now fast forward, and we hear the Department of Justice have an opportunity to handle it because the black people, when they was with Trump, they didn't do anything. When the young people that's at Fauci's school had an opportunity to handle it, they didn't. They just said, "Hey, hopefully you go to jail," to Fauci, and he continued to walk into the college and do his usual lectures. So now, if the Department of Justice doesn't do anything on May 11th, and then you got to understand how the people react after that is justified, So I'm saying there's a lot going on at the same time, and I just kind of like just deep dived and just went all over the place with it, but it all relates and it all connects to that whole intellectual property, Michael Jackson, where it's like you got this perspective, or this perspective. You got the perspective of the businessman that's going to see, damn, he owns all of this stuff, and I want it, so I'm a crap on his name. You get what I'm saying? And the same people that crapped on his name were the same people that was like saying it's okay to take this experiment. And then they were saying turn a blind eye to what's happening to the children over there, and saying turn the blind eye to the data centers that's being built in people's backyards, right? So it all connects, depending on your perspective. But yeah, so anyway, that's just in my intro conversation.
Yes, I said I don't like to mess with you. I brought up Drake and Kendrick not to steer you that way, but it went that way. It is what it is.
Right.
So I don't know what direction we're gonna go in now, or you're gonna go in, but you got the floor.
Yeah, just I mean, when you look at it, where we at today, right? With the basically with the data centers, and it's like that's a major conversation because little by little, that's where everything is shifting on YouTube, on social medias, on the streaming platforms, all of the different things. The artificial intelligence is going to become a main, just a main conversation because they're making it easier to create out of nothing. And a lot of creators that were jammed up for not having original music, etc., because I got caught up with that same scenario. And the intellectual property part is where you see like a Michael Jackson, a Taylor Swift, and that whole, can they be replaced with artificial intelligent, AI videos, et cetera. So everyday people don't think that connects with them, because it's just right now, it's just a little fun, et cetera. And I say it's a double-edged sword for me as a musician and as an artist, so for this part of the conversation, I would speak on like how that affects me, or, what do I think about that? And I would just, before even asking, what's your, do you have any, stake in that, in that game right there, in that conversation?
When you say intellectual property and stuff, Israel doctrine is nothing but intellectual property, and now it's digital.
Yes.
Creating ebooks, I'm creating courses and other things to bring to the people. Because Israel doctrine has been an entertainment platform on multiple digital platforms. I mean,
Yeah.
I started off like that. I got my emails, I got a Google, I got a Yahoo, I got this, I got that, so I can retain a name.
Mm-hmm.
I got it copyrighted, trademark, so I can keep my intellectual property. People have put my name on different channels and stuff. I'm like, hey, I got the trademark. You need to take that up off there. They took it off, So You know, a lot of people been pooping on the name, but I remain the same.
Right, right. I mean, but so you know the game, so that's what's the blessing of knowing, like, when you know your worth, when you know that just your name alone holds weight and has value, so uh time is another thing. Like, AI already saved me, I would say, no less than $500,000 worth of time. Time, right? Maybe.
Business. You're a businessman. I'm a businessman. So
Right. So you have to, when you have to weigh your time like that, like, yo, there's a value to, what we say and do. And imagine having to physically earn $1 million or 1.5. Like, what are you doing and how much time is that going to take? You get what I'm saying? So, when you have methods and things that can help you cut that time in half or into a fraction of a time of the time, or save you a lot of time, period. So that's really why it's like, yo, listen, it's a double-edged sword, because when you're protecting your IP, when you're protecting your intellectual property, it's one of those things where it's so many levels and layers to life itself. And then all of a sudden, you're forced into a space where we wasn't, like, I would say basic high school doesn't really prepare you for real life like that. It's just teaching you basic fundamentals of what they think about these
all school
traditional.
been.
What's that?
That's all school ever been. My mother and father, they never graduated high school. They was elderly
Hmm.
people. So they would go to the farm and pick cotton and stuff. They didn't have a chance to get an education.
Hmm.
Fourth, fifth grade, it's time to go to the field.
Mm.
So it gave you the basis: reading, writing, arithmetic, the basis. And if you had that, you could make it, because all you had to do was go to the farm or go to the field
Right.
or do some physical labor. But AI in the industry today is cutting.
Right, right. It's
Whitney and them, they cut that out a long time ago.
say it again.
Eli Whitney, the cotton gin, this, that, and they took people out the field. That's the matter with this small town. It used to be a farm town.
Mm.
Industry here. And because they ain't got an industry, we got one grocery store, one gas station, and outside of that, we got like four more businesses in the whole town. So I mean, the town is dying. That's what's happening to the south. If farming was your main labor.
Right, right. I mean, like, well, listen, the lucky part is they didn't damage the farmland and do like they did everywhere else. Like, most states and most towns, they would build these malls, dig up all the dirt and all the farms, put a mall on top of it, and then the mall goes out of business because nobody's able to purchase anything because they was making money from the farm, but now they don't have the farm. So they wind up working at a job in the mall, can't afford to buy stuff from the mall closes because they don't have customers, right? And now you don't have a farm, and you're left with these empty concrete spaces that you can't do anything with. So for the towns that don't have a lot of businesses, you kind of lucked up. You get, what I'm saying? You kind of lucked up to be able to still produce actual raw materials on the land.
Yeah, this time with groceries and stuff going up, plant you some greens in the field somewhere, and you got plenty of food.
Yo, listen, I be saying some of the restaurant owners, like the Asian restaurant owners, I see them walk right across the street on the side of the highway. There's like grass, and they be pulling up the greens. They be growing greens on the side of the thing, so they ain't got to buy them out the supermarket. So yeah, listen, people figuring it out. Like, I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, they don't figured out where to plant greens, and because that's really what it was. Like, a lot of people think that, we can't live in abundance and people be able to function, which is wrong, because America was really, this is where you can really dive into the biblical part of it, or the spiritual part of it, because just from my historical perspective, America itself, this land over here, was, apart from it changing to multiple different uses, it was really a place to hide the family from the attacks that would happen in other places, right? So at one point, there was no map of America, because they erased it, and they didn't want the so-called savages, or the so-called wild men, or these maniacs that, they were destroying people's property and doing all type of wild business, just unimaginable stuff. They didn't want them to know where we was at. So they erased America off the map for hundreds and hundreds of years, where only some of these maps that are found today, are like from the 900 or 1200, etc., where they're like, oh wow, I didn't even know America was on the map, or in this country, and they already had it, but they made sure they couldn't find this land for so long, because they already knew, what these people would do. So when you have, when you have us growing up, as as what you would say, like a Garden of Eden, like New York itself. I'm gonna just go just New York in particular, right? 1653, New York was incorporated. The United States was incorporated 1871. Slavery was incorporated 1619, right? So corporations is a business that started from that point until 2001. So now we're into a whole nother system. But most people don't understand that when these corporations came here, and these people came with this whole idea of corporatism, they were looking at the people that were here, and they looked at the land. They said, wow, they have abundance. They have all the energy, all the food, all the love that anyone would ever need, ever, right? And this is documented in whether it's Samuel Adams, John Hancock's work, the Boston Tea Party, or you could read about all of this stuff, or these artifacts of what society looked like. New York looked like the Garden of Eden. We had dolphins, whales, mounds, castles, temples. We had food growing on trees, on the ground, all over the place. The children were considered the most brilliant on earth, according to the Europeans. So when the Europeans corrupt the system with this body politics called corporatism, that's where you see the changes. And that's where a lot of the, I would say, like the Moors and etc., like, a lot of people get those conversations confused as far as reality versus what the corporate structure is. Like, even the word person was incorporated in 1893, right? So the word person was incorporated. Every part of life has been incorporated to a point where people think that the corporate word is the reality, when that's not what it is. So that's why, when we saying these
reality, you got to give you got to say what it is, and then when somebody say it ain't that, you say you a lie. This is what it is. This is reality. This is what's going on, because we created it. You can't do nothing about it. Michael Jackson, him buying the Beatles, intelligent, as they would say, Negro. We got we got to stop him. He owned too much. And then we know the handlers heard what he was saying. We got to take him out of here.
Definitely. Like, so just because, when you have these situations where you become, you know, in the upper echelon of success, with your intellectual property, you hit the radar. So when you're on the radar, and Mike was still moving, like he knew who he was and he valued his time and image, before a lot of people even understood it. So that's why he was looking to buy Marvel. That's why, when he was able to travel the world, he already knew, certain situations and certain things. And that's why he would say and do certain things.
As Kanye
So,
say, he's the new Walt Disney. Michael was everything Kanye think he is now. Before he
yeah.
was,
Yeah, I mean, but to be inspired, like Muhammad Ali, Michael Jackson, Warfare, like a lot of our even athletes at the time growing up, we look at them as inspiration, and those are our batteries in our back for us to say we the greatest, right? So that's where I get it from. I get it from hearing about these people, reading their stories, seeing my parents and loved ones and family and friends.
have to study him. Cause you study them, then you study who they study. Cause
Right, right.
going through the study, you say, "Oh, he watched." Cause Sugar Ray Leonard or Sugar, whatever that sugar was, so many sugars, but that
Mhm.
one inspired so and so, so and so.
Yes,
And
yes.
then this guy
Sugar
inspired.
Ray Robinson, right? Sugar Ray Robinson, and then there's, yeah, Muhammad Ali's, and yeah. So yeah, before Muhammad Ali, you got the Sugar Ray Robinsons, and yeah. So we all take this inspiration, to another level, and that's weird to the people that get caught up in the system of being, media, that mediocrity has been the defining line for society, because the corporations, uh, that's how, that's basically their bottom line, to homogenize or ostracize, at the same time have a planned obsolescence for their bottom line. So that's just how corporations and corporatism operates. Right now, we're in a system called cyberism. So that's the spiritual aspect. So capitalism is the head. That's one thought. That's one. Capitalism is the head, right? So the head has one function. That's the brain in there. The main function of the head is is carrying the brain, or vice versa, and the brain make the decisions, and that's capitalism. The body has the heart, has the lungs, has the stomach, et cetera, et cetera. So the corpse, that's the body. Corporations, the body politics is all of these different functions, and they all do different things. Whereas the body had one function. When the king says this, that's what you do. So now corporatism is the body politics, right? So the new system is the spiritual system, right? And it goes back to the point where you say, okay, although you don't want to do that, but you can't help but do it because they have control of your spirit. So that's why we want to say free your mind type of thing, right? And your like the body doesn't function without the spirit. So if you can get control of the spirit, that's what the data centers are based on. The data centers are based on studying the spirit of who you are and how you function. So if they can figure that part out and transfer that into a robot that can replace you having to pay a bunch of workers, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm gonna just say this, like, just as an artist, I don't see myself in competition with a printing press that's hooked up to a computer, right? Just because I paint and draw, and the computer can basically see an image and duplicate it on a massive scale, I don't see that as my competition. And that's basically what AI is. AI is basically like a massive printing press hooked up to a computer. And people are like, oh my God, that's the competition. I'm like, nah, that's not the competition. That's unless you want it to be. Is you're going to create your own, and that's how people are trying to go in this whole data center race of creating these massive data banks so they can regulate and create their own monies and blockchains, et cetera, because they think the value is in just nothing, right? Whereas the reality is the value is the food, the air, the water, the land, right? And the communication, the love, the spirit, etc. Right? So if you don't, what's that?
I was coughing.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, so yeah, if you don't have the food, the air, the land, the water, the love, then it's all for nothing, really. You get what I'm saying? Like if it like they think that if we can give you an artificial version of it and control it and only a few people benefit from it, then that's success. When that's actually, this dystopian projection from their propaganda machines to keep, corporatism and now cyberism running, because cyberism is just basically a thousand times what corporatism is. Like corporatism was 1,000 times what capitalism was. And now we're at a level where from corporatism that people are just starting to figure out. And I'm sure by the end of the year, it'll become a mainstream conversation or more of a main narrative on the
Well,
algorithm.
you got to get into it. Since I entered this digital world and see
Yeah.
how it works, I can deal with it now.
Yes. Yes. And the thing is, just to remember, at this point, we're basically writing history in the data centers, right? On the algorithm. We're basically creating our own story, our own narrative right now that AI is going to have to refer back to, right? So before we was just, you post up, etc. You have these conversations, but now AI is coming into play and it's learning. So as it's learning, it'll watch this whole video in a couple of seconds. Like all this talking we doing, it'll watch it in a couple of seconds, analyze the video, break down, give a summary, tell you what part you need to watch, what part you need to clip up, what part was valuable, etc., etc. And then it's going to mark it as information for somebody else to see as uh, something to help them or something they should learn or something they should know. But it becomes a part of the data centers, these artificial intelligent thought processes. So that's why it's really important about putting a certain type of information and saying certain things at this point, because everything is at its learning stage. These robots are learning. So if we don't care about each other and we don't act like we care about our land, air, water, whatever, then neither will the AI. And a lot of these businessmen don't understand that, there's nothing more valuable than being able to breathe fresh air, clean water.
That's why I created a conscious community, the Israelite Christian conscious community, because the garbage that's been put out over these internets and stuff is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
One of my main focus is Hebrew Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the term come from? Y'all have no history. Y'all have no nothing. A Hebrew became an Israelite. A Hebrew also became an Ishmaelite, an Edomite, or this and that. So you haven't defined. Well, we're scholars. How are you a scholar and you don't know this?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know this. And then the Roman Catholic preaches this out here. Trump just said something about the Sabbath day. And most
Mm-hmm.
people don't even know what the Sabbath day is because they don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the first day of the week is.
Mm-hmm.
They've been told that Monday is the first day of the week because that's the first day of the work week.
Mm.
They created a week, a work week. And most
Right.
people don't know what a regular week is. They don't. I was just on Facebook, and this man is and his wife. He married the woman.
Mm.
And they got a video. It start off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it go to Sunday. And I was
Mm.
like, are y'all trying to mess up the people brain with the video? Because you didn't say what a week was correctly. Everything is incorrect. If you incorrectly put it in the data system, it's going to forever be incorrect. And we know that they got incorrect stuff out here and they done loaded it up on the intellectual properties called databases and stuff.
Yeah,
And the database for the next generation is messed up.
mm-hmm.
We got to
Well, that's definitely, a part of, the challenge, the ongoing challenge for the indigenous bunch of us, because what happens is you have the artificial intelligence is will tell you, and you have to keep it. Everything has to be as factual as possible, and I suggest people try to do their best to stay away from gossip at this point, because again, everything is about learning information. All these artificial intelligence things is learning. So when you understand how the calendar is destroyed and how the calendar was altered for corporate purposes, then you can understand, like, okay, everything is operating on multiple different matrices, multiple different, paradigms. And just so happened that, if you playing a video game against a younger dude, a child, or somebody who knows how to play a video game, and you wind up playing that game and they mastered the game, which is very technical. You don't know how to play it, you don't even know how to use a controller, etc. And they beat you at that game. It's not because they better than you, it's because you don't know how to play the game, because you don't know how to use the controller, you don't know the rule, whatever the case is. That's how they beat you. Because what happens is, after we graduate from high school, we wind up in these games that we would never taught the rules or how to play. And you get caught up in these private prisons, you get caught up in these institutions, and you wind up in debt for hundreds of thousands. And, at this point, most people, are disenchanted by school, and AI is making it easier to learn a lot of things. So, we have to, be realistic about, what we're dealing with moving forward. That's why I say, is sticking to the facts as much as possible, because, we're at a point where just simple information about the time of day, the year, the month, how if the year starts in April, right? That's reality. The year literally starts in April. You don't got to debate with us about it. You can actually ask AI how many times the calendar was changed, right? So if the year starts in April, right, and then the days are named, excuse me, the months are named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What was changed? Why was it changed? Who changed it? For what purpose? And then you understand uh, from the days of the weeks to the months are also based on a corporate calendar. That corporate calendar of the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, that is the system that a lot of people confuse with regular life. So you got regular people celebrating the corporate calendar instead of celebrating the actual new year, right? So and that, again, like you said, like, it ties into even thinking that Monday's the start of the week, when it's like, no, the Sabbath was the Saturday. You get what I'm saying? So if Sunday's is one, and so a lot of the conversations are based on messed up programming, and the toxic information that we keep passing on and trying to say that it's the culture when it's not.
Humans
So
are the database. And when you put messed up data in the humans gonna spit out messed up data.
factory. That's a fact. So that's how I look at it. I look at it like, you got to look at these data centers like children, and these, even the children are being forced to act like, they're making adult decisions and to be in adult situations when the adults are trying to be children. So the adults that are trying to be children will give more time and more care to these machines and nonsense than they do to the actual children, because just the mind has been altered from the toxic programming of these people that have figured out the spells that
It's
could
a
be cast.
it's
The
a thing that brings life, and life is spiritual and physical. And they killing these people spiritually. What you think
Yes,
was back in the 80s? Why do you think that stuff came like that? Because they had to kill the spirit of the people. They had to kill the soul.
yes,
What's alive back then, they had to kill it though.
yes, yes. Right, right. So just a lot of people don't want to succeed because their spirits are already dead. They like, oh, success is dangerous. Like people are scared to do good because the punishment of being successful. So the fear of success is at an all-time high, and that's why a lot of people function and as losers, because losers are actually rewarded in the system that we call culture industry. Like the culture industry finds the losers, put the losers as the winners, and everything from that point turns into, wait a minute, you're telling me I know all of this information, I do everything right, and I get punished. This guy or girl doesn't do a fraction or know a fraction of what I know, and they do the opposite. Actually, they are punished for it, but then you reward them and you give them money and you give them fame, etc., and all these things that you would feel like would go to the person that is more of an upstanding citizen or whatever the case is, civilian, whatever the case is.
Nobody
So
never told them the key to it all though. You got to
with
die
that,
in this world to live in the next world. You can't stay in this world forever. A lot of people trying to stay in this world because this world satisfies them, not knowing that
mm,
there's another world out there. And the only way you can get there is to die.
mm. Oh, okay, so you just feel like a lot of people are just like so content, like with this situation. You're saying?
Yeah, that's the theme of the Matrix. I want to stay locked in this because I don't want to deal with the reality of what comes after this. Anything after this, I don't want it.
Hmm.
You locked up in here, and I do your bidding and keep your machine running. I believe that's why the sister came with the Terminator and the Matrix and stuff. What that was one movie.
Sophia Stewart.
Yeah, corporate America split it so they can make money. We got two franchises now instead of one. We got two Michael Jordans instead of one. we finna make money.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, they seen the value of doing that. They seen the value of saying, guess what? This is one book to you, but this is like a bunch of different, IPs to us. And they broke it up, and like you said, they made a lot of money. They made a lot of money, and I know her case was ongoing for a really long time. But we know, we know what it is. Sophia Stewart, we still remember her name, and you just brought her up as a conversation to this reality that we're dealing with, because it's literally this matrix of, yo, listen, we know it's messed up. We know things have been real for a really long time. And that's why, trying to downplay entertainment doesn't even, it's not even fair, because we know if you ain't gonna deal with reality, then why are you gonna mess up our entertainment? You get what I'm saying? Like we trying to at least be entertained.
Creating ciphers. They create ciphers like, hold up, man. I know it ain't real, but it tastes good.
Creating ciphers. So that's the thing. It's like the thing is, even with the with the ciphers, yeah, he actually wanted to be a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like he wanted the problem to keep going, and he wanted to stay, in that matrix or whatever. but where it's like we used our entertainment as a form of communication. So that's just the only thing. It's like, yo, our entertainment is not just entertainment. It's actually a form of education, a form of spiritual growth, learning frequencies, and that's how we showed and shared love. And again, it was corrupted. Like this, that's not is no more to it. It's just that corrupted. Like you have these people and who just have a mindset of finding something negative in anything. You get what I mean? So when you can see the good in something and how you're trying to make things work out, it's just you got a whole group of people that will corrupt a situation because that's just what they get off on. You know what I mean? Like they just really want things to go a certain way because misery love company. That's really one of the oldest sayings that I know that is a fact for today. The same as the 7 sins of the Bible, like those didn't go away. That's just the facts that we, as humans know are facts. No matter what your belief system is, those are just facts. Lust, vanity, greed, what
Four devils.
huh?
The four devils.
All of the 4 devils, all the 7 sins, and at the same time, the 7 chakras are to counter those, right? And there's a balancing act to know how to use those desires to push you to do the right thing. But it's to me, my personal theory of it is the ebbs and flows of life are like the ocean. Like you have a high tide where intellectuals are, at a peak, and then you have a low tide where society goes down. I think, and as the tide rises, we just have this fungus of people that want to stay on top of the tide, right? And they're just not, they're just making the clear water not as clear.
Intelligent people know that tide go up and go down.
Mm-hmm.
And so they create the tide and put people in there to control things.
They have this artificial pool at this point, and just saying like, look what the tide is doing, and we're actually ignoring the actual natural rivers and oceans to look at the pool that they created and these artificial water holes and wells that they created so they can control the narrative and
stuff too. They learn control and they have control.
Yes.
They learned it and they have it and they not giving it up. Become a problem and mess up their system and you'll be gone tomorrow. Your whole family, the whole house, it'll be a burn spot there if you become a problem to their system.
The thing is we all considered a problem to people who are trying to reduce the population. So no matter what, even because I'm saying when you're at the bottom, you have the same problems. So what are you going to stay at the bottom and have, just accept these problems? That's basically the cipher conversation. So for me personally, I look at it like I'd rather be one of the ones that, at least make the most out of my time by being the best version of myself. And what that means, is how I affect the next person, the next man or woman, as in helping them be the best version of themselves. So when somebody is around me struggling with cigarettes or struggling with addiction of something or whatever the case is, I do my best to help them know, like, yo, if you do this, this, and that can probably help you break that habit or change this or change that, just to better your life a little bit as much as possible. It ain't about, I'm trying to be over anybody or be anybody's, authority or whatever, but giving them an opportunity, an option to opt out of the mind games and the psychological warfare that we have this, this ongoing battle.
I tell people I don't even watch TV. I got a TV sitting right there. And I didn't unplug it because I'm like, that's the electric bill. I got to pay for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny. I haven't watched TV in a long time, but um, yeah, listen. I mean, other than the baby coming over, I'm like, damn, I might have to get a TV again because the baby's like, yo, I want to watch my show sometime, so like, yeah, but yeah, it's just these corporations, you have to call them out and you have to call it for what it is. And just like, the IP that you created for yourself doesn't eat or crap for you, right? Yes, it exists. Yes, it's true on paper, true in the digital world, but in reality, that's not, what makes, you breathe air. So, we care and we handle our business, but at the same time, we actually, have to live our lives accordingly. And natural law outweighs any of these corporate nonsense and these shenanigans and games and propaganda that they put out to try to pretend like they control more than what they do. Now, right now, all of these guys are tangible. All of these guys are tangible that are creating these problems. Like people will crash out over a color, over a word, over nonsense. But then it's like, yo, these guys actually created a real problem for your family. They poisoned you, they poison your children, they poison your grandparents, or whatever the case is, and they functioning like everything is all sweet. So that's how I come up with this whole, at when I'm graduating high school, and I'm like, these guys are the ones that's supposed to be moral and upright, and these guys are making the rules. So at a young age, I knew that was wrong. I'm like, that's no morals. I'm like, if these guys have morals, then I don't have morals. If you consider these guys because they're rich, but look at their, look now when you have the Epstein files and all of these other, other revelations about what they actually do in private and who they actually are as people. These guys are the worst, and these are the ones making your rules and telling you, you know, you know what it is to be an upstand. Get at like, nah. That's just not what it is, and we can't pretend that's what it is.
There's a song out there. Bitch ass niggas is like a disease.
Damn
You
it,
keep it away from. It's an epidemic of bitch ass niggas running wild. I don't want it.
I don't want it either. I don't want it either. And but I would say to the audience, whenever you see this, if you're watching and whatever the case is, that we at a unique time. It's a beautiful time to be alive, where you don't actually have to be in a nonsense. You can actually not get caught up in a nonsense and keep it at arm's length, at arm's distance, where you can see the nonsense, but you don't got to get involved in it. Like, so now is a different time where years ago you actually was born in the middle of no, I was born in the middle of the nonsense. Like that's just what it was. But right now, you actually don't have to be. You can actually change the narrative by doing whatever you got to do to be the best version of yourself. And that's all I could say, for this conversation until the next time. But hopefully, we was able to cover, the conversation in a way where it connects to the title. But at the same time, more than the title is the connection to the people listening. And again, this is
Yeah.
your brother Reef Royale. And I appreciate Israel Doctrine for giving, just sharing his time with us where we could chop it up.
Well, I think I'm gonna share the next show we do with maybe Skills. He said he wouldn't mind doing a show with us, so
Why not?
he'll be
Why not?
sharing the
Why
show.
not?
But yeah, this show is over with. Thank y'all for watching, paying attention. And yes, you are a database. And when they put bad data in you, bad data come out you. So get good data in you. Listen to this channel. It's a great database. With that said, leave a comment what you think about the show. We out. Appreciate
Peace.
you coming over. Peace.